So, why would it be a good idea for the Yankees to add a starting pitcher this offseason? Okay. Obviously, we know they need to use the bat. I mean, they need to get multiple bats. I've talked about it quite a bit. And in no way am I saying that the Yankees should get arms instead of bats, right? They need to get bats. We know this. I've been profiling people almost every day on the channel in the mornings. And if you haven't seen it, make sure you're subscribed and make sure your notifications are turned on because I've been profiling people pretty much every morning and talking about why this guy makes sense and why he doesn't make sense, kind of giving you both sides of the story. But with that said, there's a couple of things I want to point, and just hear me out and you let me know if you agree or not. If you don't agree, that's fine too. Okay. We know Garrett Cole is coming off Tommy John, as is and he's due to come back maybe May or June. Clark Schmidt, maybe if we're lucky, the second half of the season, August or later than that. Maybe. Okay. Obviously, we're getting production from Carlos Rodon, but other guys, namely Will Warren, Max Fried, and Cam Schlittler, these guys are coming off career highs in innings pitched and workloads. So generally, when that happens, okay, there could be a risk for the next season for an injury. So at this point, as much as I like Elmer Rodriguez Cruz and Carlos LaGrange and some of these guys, I don't want to throw them to the wolves. I think we need to add. What's up to the chat, by the way? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Adding an arm would be a good idea to provide a security blanket, just kind of like the Dodgers do. They keep adding arms, right? and arms have been neutralizing bats. Their good arms have been neutralizing bats, right? Like Yamamoto, even to a degree Blake Snell. And we'll see what happens tonight. Blake Snell is going up against Trey Savage in Game 5 today in the World Series. So, but with that said, when it comes to the Yankees, we know they need to add bats, but adding an arm for this particular reason provides an additional security blanket for the Yankees to withstand some of the offensive attacks. I mean, the Boston Red Sox lineup is going to get better. And we don't know what's going to happen yet with the Blue Jays, but their lineup is going to be good, right? Other lineups in American League are going to be good. If we happen to face the Dodgers, you know their lineup's going to be good. And they're probably going to try to add to it. So we're going to need to do these types of things. And again, do I think they're going to go after Tarek Skubal? Yes. Don't know if they're going to get him or not. Tarek Skubal, obviously. And there are a couple other people that would be a good idea. Paul Skeens, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think he's going to get traded this offseason. And my logic to that is he has one more year pre-arb. Players do not get expensive in pre-arb. They get expensive in arbitration. That's after the season. So at any point in time, if the Pirates are going to trade Paul Skeens, I think it's going to be next offseason at the earliest. Because they generally don't like to pay their players. Right? I mean, we've seen this and them skipping out on bonuses due to players and so on and so forth. So Skeens, I'd be shocked if it happens. Shocked. Okay. Skubal, on the other hand, it's possible. We know he's going to cost a pretty penny. We know this already. And the Yankees have to come with an extension ready to make it very hard to say no to because he's represented by Scott Boras. And we know this. Dev, what's happening, brother? Beagle, CWE, Jonathan, Ken, what do you know? So for these reasons, there's a couple of guys like Tetsuya Imai. Again, he's one of these Japanese pitchers, a 27-year-old right-hander, right? And again, his stats pretty decent. I'm just gonna mention two guys, Tetsuya Imai, and again, he's represented in Japan. He's coming over to Major League Baseball this year. Okay, he's being posted. And just to give you an idea, I mean, he's 10-5 this year, 153 innings pitched, 178 strikeouts. Last year, it was in 2024, he was 10-8, 117 innings pitched, 187 strikeouts, versus about 45 walks, or right around 40 walks. So he has a 4-to-5 to strikeout to walk ratio. Okay, so he's got control. And we've seen success with Japanese pitchers coming over to the major leagues. He's a guy that could probably be had. It's not going to cost as much as Yamamoto, but if you want another arm who could potentially be a workhorse to make it easier to ease Garrett Cole back in, easier to ease Clark, and we don't even know if Clark Schmidt's going to come back as a starter viable, so we have no idea yet. This is his second Tommy John. We don't know. Okay? And I don't know. So Tatsuya Imai is a guy I would be considering, as is Zach Gallen too, from the Diamondbacks. Okay, and again, just to give you an idea, and this guy is also 66 and 52 in his career 3.58 ERA. Last 3 years of innings pitched: 210, 148, 192. Strikeouts: 220, 156, 175. And at no point in time has he walked. Was it 47, 54, and 66? So he also has a 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 K to walk ratio as well. Solid control. Okay? Solid control. And again, yes, the Dodgers can't sign everybody from Japan. Okay? The Yankees have an opportunity to potentially go after two guys. And these guys are both represented by Scott Boras. Okay? And so these guys should be in regular dialogue, in my opinion, with Scott Boras. Not only with Tarek Skubal, but with Imai and Kazuma Okamoto, the right-handed utility player who I profiled about a couple days ago. Okay? So this is an opportunity for the Yankees to add a starting pitcher who could provide consistent innings without them having to rush back Garrett Cole, without them having to rush back Clark Schmidt. Like I said, there's no guarantee Schmidt's going to come back into the rotation at all. And the Yankees, I expect to non-tender a bunch of bullpen pieces too. So they're going to need some reliability in the starting rotation. Now, as much as I'd like Skubal to be a Yankee, it hasn't happened yet. Okay? And until that happens, still got to look for an arm. And like I said, at no point am I looking to say add arms and not bats. We need both. We need both, okay? And this is an opportunity for the Yankees to do it. Okay, and again, these arms, Zach Gallen's not going to cost $200 million. Neither is Imai. He's not going to cost $200 million, right? So, and if Schmidt goes back and becomes a high leverage reliever, so be it. But if he wants to go and be a starter somewhere else, then you can non-tender him. Try to trade him, but you non-tender him if it doesn't work out. That's the luxury that teams have in the arbitration process. They can non-tender players anytime they want. He may get non-tendered. You never know. You don't know. So if they non-tender him, I expect them to add an arm pretty quickly. Because they are going to, I expect them to non-tender probably, I'm going to say 4 relievers, which will save them several $1 million. And I think they're going to also decline the $5 million option on Jonathan Loaizaga. That's five relievers that I think will not be back. The Yankees will save upwards of almost $10 million on those guys alone. Okay? So, and I don't know how much Imai is going to cost, or Zach Gallen, but nevertheless, these guys could provide the Yankees with consistent innings pitched, and they don't have to be super duper high octane innings. Just a good pitcher that can be in the middle of the back end of the rotation. Because and like I said, Max Fried coming off career highs in workloads and innings pitched, performance extremely well. Same thing with Cam Schlittler from minors to the majors. Okay, same thing with Will Warren. Look at their body of work, significantly increased. This is where essentially you could be playing with fire. So we have to be cognizant of that, which is why I think I would be adding an arm to the starting rotation. They're going to add arms to the bullpen. They have to add arms to the bullpen. There's no doubt about that. But adding an arm to the rotation, not named Tarek Skubal, and I do think they're going to go hard after Tarek Skubal, obviously, but we don't know if it's going to happen or not. We know how Scott Boras does this, and he generally doesn't like have extensions for his players that have 1 year left. And again, even so, it would be a good idea for to lock him up to an extension, because if the CBA ends and there's a work stoppage next year, he's locked up to a contract, and you don't have to worry about the instability of the finances later on, and him potentially not getting the contract that they want. So now's the time to do it before anything happens with the CBA, right? And again, this is another reason why I would come forth with an extension that is very hard to say no to. It has to happen. That's the only way. I would want to trade for the guy. Okay? And I think Hill comes back. I think Hamilton's gone. I think Loaizaga. Luke Weaver, I think, is gone. Leiter, probably. Scotty Frost. Potentially Jake Cousins. Although I've said, I would like to see them bring him back if they could to see because he was really good before he got Tommy John. So, and again, if he's barely in pre-op, so he's not going to break the bank. So he's a guy I would. Yeah, Jeff Nelson's gone, and it was John Flaherty. They're cleaning house, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Is it Jeff Nelson and John Flaherty gone? Wow. Nelson and Flaherty. Wow. What's going on over there? Holy moly. They need both, Pixel Man. I just explained why. They would need a starter. Okay, we've talked about the offense. I said they need both. They need to add a starter and offense. And I've been profiling people every single morning. And I've said repeatedly they need to add 2 contact bats regardless of what they do at Cody Bellinger's position. If they bring back Bellinger or replace him with, say, Kyle Tucker or Steven Kwan or whatever, they still need to add 2 contact bats beyond that. So that's what I'm saying, Pixel Man. Okay, but the fact is they need a starter. Why? Because not only is Garrett Cole coming back from Tommy John. Okay, we don't know what the hell we're going to get. We hope we're getting a lot. Clark Schmidt's going to come back later, and we don't know what to expect from Luis Hill. But I would use him as a trade bait to get somebody like a Brendan Donovan if I could. Okay, in a heartbeat. But Will Warren, Max Fried, and Cam Schlittler have been 3 of the more reliable Yankee pitchers, but they're coming off of career high innings pitched, career high workloads. This is when you got to be careful. You have to be careful. They're not going to trade McMahon, Pixel Man. Who can be another knowledgeable guy? Maybe they'll bring Joe Girardi out to yes. He's a knowledgeable baseball guy. I wouldn't trade McMahon. He stabilized the infield defense for this team. However, I would say this, and I said this morning too. Dax Kilby is a guy that they drafted this past year in the first round out of high school, but he has an advanced skill set already offensively, okay, with exit velocity, and he's basically hanging with college guys. So he's already years ahead of his development. And he's one of the more athletic guys. He's a guy I could see replacing McMahon in 2 years at third base. McMahon's got 2 more years on his contract. And there's no way in the world I'm going to replace him with Alex Bregman. But that said, I talked about, and look at what I did this morning, if you haven't seen it yet, the case for Bichette. Okay. Bichette's a guy I would add, not replace with. Why? Because Bichette can be a good platoon with Ryan McMahon. Okay, McMahon hits about mid-850s OPS against righties, but mid-650s against lefties. That's when there's a lefty starter, that's when I'll be playing Bichette. It's about 20% of the time. Bichette can also take reps at shortstop. He can also take reps at second base, where he's probably going to be the strongest. So that if they don't want to bring Jazz Chisholm back, they can move Bichette over to second at some point as well. He's not as good of an infield as McMahon. McMahon is 10 miles ahead of him. Okay, he's weak with the glove and strong with the bat, Bichette, but he is a good contact hitter. Okay. So that to me would be an affordable contract with Zach Gallen, Ken. That to me would be an affordable extension. It's both. Hits and batting average. Okay. OPS, on base plus slugging. What contributes to slugging and on base percentage at the same time? Hits. Walks only contribute to on base percentage, does nothing for slugging. So you need guys that are contact hitters. Guys that are contact hitters have high OPSs. Bo Bichette's got a high OPS. McMahon's got a good one against righties, but not a good one against lefties. But he's an elite defender. So to me, finding a good platoon guy, and he happens to be a righty. Okay, but I also talked about Kazuma Okamoto episode. I profiled him as well. He's also a right-handed hitter who's patient. He's a contact guy, and the skill set for contact hitters from Japan tends to translate more effectively from the Japan to the majors and more rapidly than power guys do. Which is why I've said that Okamoto's a better fit for the Yankees than Munetaka Murakami. Okay, singles are very important. Yeah, they are. That's what contact hitters do. That's what contact hitters are more singles than doubles. They run into power when they need to. Contact hitters are prone to what? Getting ahead in counts, right? Which puts the pitcher behind an account. What does that mean? When the pitcher's behind an account, they're going to have to throw more strikes to the contact hitter who's looking for that. That's when they run into power, right? So to me, adding a couple contact bats would be a good thing for this team. Look who's got it loaded with contact guys. The two teams in the World Series right now, loaded with contact bats, both of them, right? Volpe is he's projected to make $3 million in arbitration this year. Now, good for the Lions. Hutchinson, yeah, that's a key signing for the Hut. I know he's coming off an injury. He was a number 2 pick a couple years ago. Good for the Lions. Thank you, Jonathan. And again, like I said before, arbitration is when players get expensive, right? Not pre-arb. This is when the contracts elevate in arbitration, when you go to hearings and so on. This is why I don't see the Pirates trading Paul Skeens, because he's in his last year of pre-arb. Next year, when he goes into arb, he's probably going to make $20 million a year. He's going to go from $750K to $20 million, like that. Pirates don't like to pay players. So I don't see the Pirates trading him this offseason, even though it would be a good idea to consider it. I can't see them not writing another cheap year, putting fans in the stands while he's here. And then when he gets expensive next year, moving on from him and still getting a similar package if he pitches well. So I didn't say he would be a role player. And who said Cash wants home run hitters? Randy. He wouldn't be a role player here, Bo Bichette. He'd play 140 games. Volpe has no trade value right now. How do we get more flexibility at first base? Pixel man, if you're signing Real Muto to go at Rice, are you playing Rice at first base? Is that what you're saying? Framber Valdez, probably not, Alex. He's 32. I think he's going to sign with the Blue Jays or something like that. Where do you hear? Can you show me some footage where Cashman says it all the time? He looks for home run hitters. Did he trade for any home run hitters at the deadline? Not one. I think one of Dominguez or Jones gets traded. Probably Dominguez. I don't. Personally, I can't see Verlander here, but I can see Max Scherzer replacing him in San Francisco, and Verlander either retiring or going back to Detroit, maybe something like that. Personally, Jack, I think the Yankees are going to be adding some high leverage relievers, 1 or 2 velocity guys, maybe 3. Well, they're going to need probably 3 or 4 of them, in all honesty. No. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to prove it, Randy. Got to be able to prove it. I've talked to him. I've seen him. They like people with power, but they like contact hitters. They like everybody, anybody they can get. But he doesn't. He's not really prioritizing home run hitters. I mean, High leverage relievers, 100%. Tyler Rogers from San Francisco Giants. You got a bunch of guys who can and I talked about this the other day too. This with the Seattle Mariners, I would watch out for them too, because I did a video on them. They're leveling their payroll, right? It's not going to be higher than next year, and they have a couple of players like Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor who they want to bring back that are going to be expensive. And if that's the case, that can leave and even Jorge Polanco, clutch hitters for them. But that might make somebody like Andres Munoz, their closer, expendable, who's projected to make $7 million in arbitration. Actually, not arbitration. He's got club options, $7 million. And if he somehow becomes a free agent, I'd be all over him if I was the Yankees. Hasn't happened yet, but we're going to find out in the coming days. I'm going to find out in the coming days what exactly happens. I mean, there's some key dates. There's some key dates that are going to be, right after the World Series. So within 5 days after the World Series, every team has to reinstate players that are on the 60-day IL into the 40-man. So Garrett Cole has to come back on the 40-man immediately. He's not on the 40-man, right? And Oswaldo Cabrera has to be put back on the 40-man also. Jay Cousins as well, if they're not going to non-tender him. They can also non-tender Oswaldo Cabrera, but I can't see that happening. And then they have to make option decisions, and there's a bunch of option decisions Yankees have. So, and that we'll have a better idea what the 40-man is going to look like, and then we have to see who we're going to protect. The Rule 5 draft is December 11th. That's the last day or the second last day of the winter meetings, but the deadline to protect players on the 40-man is November 18th. That has to happen by the 18th, and Jonathan and I will be going live shortly in the next couple of days to go over who we think is going to be, should be put on there, not put on there, and who of those guys can be traded and so on and so forth, just to give everybody a little bit more clarity. Okay. The QO is, 22 million. Now, I think the only guy that's going to get a qualifying offer is Trent Grisham. I think Devin Williams would accept it. I think Grisham would decline it. I do think Devin Williams will probably get, if I had to guess, a 3 or 4 year for 10 or 12 million bucks per year. I'd be surprised if he leaves 20 or 30 million on the table after the way he played. I think Jays win in 7. I'd be curious to see if they win tonight. Then I would be shocked if the Dodgers won both games in Toronto. I'd be shocked. We'll see how they do tonight. I think the Jays can win in 7. I do. But again, let me just preface this again. I'm going to make it clear. I'm not saying they need to add a starting pitcher instead of bats. I'm saying they need to add a starting pitcher on top of bats. Okay, a lot of folks keep saying they just need arms. They just need bats and bats and bats. We know that, but they also need to add a starting pitcher. There's another game tonight. Yeah, 3 games in a row, and then tomorrow's off, and then Game 6 is on Friday on Halloween night. I'm not sure. What if Detroit signs Bo Bichette? Yeah, Blake Snell versus Trey Savage. But yeah, Jace Flaherty or Jeff Nelson, neither one of them are returning to yes. They're making some personnel changes, man. Ken's calling play by Frank Friday. If anybody's not subscribed to Ken and the Yankees Ugly Truth, make sure you do that. It's good play-by-play. Level-headed, logical, not riddled with talking points. I did not stay up for 18. I turned the TV off for like 12th inning. It was. I'm up at 6 a.m. I can't stay up until 3 o'clock to watch a World Series game that my Yankees aren't in. Yeah, it stinks for Jeff Nelson and John Flaherty. It does stink. Where is this talent limiting spending coming from? Who's saying this? Because Hal's not saying it. Cashman isn't saying it. Yeah, no kidding, Ken. Changes to the analytics department. You got that right. At the very least, get them over. He doesn't need to go over 305. Dang. Thanks, Star. What's the name of your YouTube channel, man? I'll make sure to support it by subscribing, brother. Congratulations. Anybody in that's not subscribed, please let's support Andrew Dang in his YouTube channel. Stories about it where? Pixel. Where? How much money do they have coming off the books, Pixel Man? No, he does not want the payroll around 175. They're not going to cut $130 million off the payroll. Anybody saying that is lying through their teeth. 175? Lying through their teeth. 275? Somebody's saying it, but Hal hasn't said it. Cashman hasn't said it. Okay? And I don't believe these people. They said the same thing last year, and they were over 300 again. And again, remember, the 3 bats don't all need to be free agency bats, Pixel. They could be trades too. As long as somebody can give them reliable innings, Jack, through the back end of the rotation, I'd be okay. Honestly, I don't think Spring is going to make it back, but the Jays won last night without him, so they can win again without him. They have to make some adjustments, yes. And that's a big blow for the Blue Jays losing Springer. That sucks. That really does suck. This is the time to go on, yeah. Sal Frelick. Let's look him up, Ken. $25 years old. He's a right fielder. Well, can he play any other position? Let's see. It's a right. Is he here? Bat righty? Is he bat left? No, he bats lefty. 12 homers, 63 ribbies, 288 batting average. I'd be curious, Ken, to see what the Brewers do. Having got swept by the Dodgers, and like I'd be really curious to see the guy like that. So that's what I wasn't thinking about, Ken. This is why it's good to listen to Ken, because he thinks outside the box. He thinks around these things. He thinks around areas where other people are not. I would pass on Ryan Helsley. He got traded to the Mets and he sucked. I'm not sure he can handle New York. Maybe the Yankees would be a different environment for him, but I would not bring him here to be a closer. I'm not interfering with David Bednar, who's shown that he can handle this place. Right? Tons of big arms in AAA. Well, we have one. I think it's Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. And a guy I want to ease these guys. And Carlos LaGrange is a little bit behind. They do have some big arms, but they're not. Well, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz will probably get a chance. Well, it depends on the asking price for Peralta. I mean, if the Brewers make him available. And they probably will shop him at the winter meetings, because like I heard, the Tigers are going to shop Tarek Skubal at the winter meetings. So I hope the Yankees are ready with an attack plan for Skubal at the winter meetings. That would be some kind of. Yeah, Carlos Lagrange is a Rule 5 guy. Yes, he is. Yeah, obviously, I mean, I would not bring in Helsley to be the closer. But if he wants to be a high leverage guy, and so, I mean, maybe I'll consider that. Uh, yeah, I know the Orioles got Corbin Burns on the cheap. We don't know if he would leave, Pixel Man. We don't know that. It'll be harder to leave because there's a good chance of a lockout after the CBA. So now's the time to lock in that contract. And Soto's a different story too. Soto's a different story. We know Soto was going to go for the big money, for the dollar. And he's made it clear he's prioritized that over anything else. Scooble, at least we know, is a freaking big time gamer. He is a bulldog. Yeah, it's not going to cost Dominguez and Jones and Warren and Hill. Not for 1 year. That's a Skeens type package, and that might even get Skeens. No, but if you think Scott Boras is not paying attention to this potential lockout, I would think again. Yeah, I think they pick up Hill's $3 million option. Yes. I don't think they pick up Loiza's $5 million option, though. I think that's a given that they don't. Oh, yeah. They are living rent free in Chapman's. He's been blasting them, saying, you know, how they treated him. But although he made it a point to point out it wasn't Boone and it wasn't his teammates, it was the powers that be above him. But you remember, they brought him here after he was suspended for domestic violence, right? And they still gave him a chance. They still gave him a contract extension. And he shit the bed more often than not. And the fans let him have it. The Yankees still threw him out there. So they showed loyalty to the guy. So I wouldn't be attacking the Yankees, in all honesty. But, like, whatever. Ends life adventure. Dang, I will see if I can find it. Thank you, Dang. Yeah, right now, I mean, yeah. The Yankees they put forth a big option, a big contract offer for Soto, but he went for the extra perks, you know? And we got trolled mercilessly by Mets fans, right? And they didn't even go to the playoffs with him. So it could be a pretty decent lockout, Wink. It could be a pretty decent lockout. They're not, well, no, they're not going to put a cap. The players' union would never approve a cap. I think I could see a floor more than a cap, but the union's never going to approve a cap. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Domingo Herman too. I mean, he also got suspended or arrested of some domestic violence, and then he threw a perfect game. And right after, I mean, shortly after that, the Yankees cut him. So they were. So, I don't even know if he's in the majors anymore. But you know, Herman didn't come out and trash the Yankees either. So yeah, I mean, if you could get contract limits, I'd be all for that. I'd still be surprised. But you know, they're going to try their darndest to keep getting the money because revenues keep going up. So they're going to try to keep pays to keep going up, contract lengths to keep going up. I would make the penalties more harsh for the teams that don't spend, that receive revenue sharing, not the teams that do. I don't think it's fair to penalize teams like the Yankees and the teams that spend, like the Dodgers, the Mets, and blah, blah, blah. Penalize the teams like the Pirates who get revenue sharing money and don't spend it on their damn players. Let them drop draft picks. Let them lose their draft picks. Yeah, I would agree with Trevor May. Yeah. Yeah, nobody's even thinking about Domingo Herman now. So everybody was happy when he threw a perfect game. It was a great, great performance by him, but he's no longer here. But the Yankees have supported guys, even through therapy and all this type of stuff. So no, they won't, Chocolate. They will not have Spencer Jones and Dominguez. That's a massive drop off in production from Bellinger to Trent Grisham. Remember, they have to replace 2 outfielders, not 1. So, as of right now, they need to replace 2 outfielders. We'll see, though, right? Because these contracts are crazy. Well, exactly, too, Chocolate. Yeah, Chapman is, he's a little butthurt right now. And again, he resurrected his career in Boston. Good for him. But there's no need to come out and just take shots at the Yankees, but there's also no need for people to be asking these stupid questions either. Well, come on, guys. Well, yeah, the Supermax. Yeah, exactly, the Supermax. And there's also, I think there's a limit to the amount of years you can get on your contract, which is 5 years, but it can be super. It's like 5 years, 300 million, some ridiculous number. Brandon said, "Dang, thank you so much, man." Everybody, let's get to this link if you don't mind. Let's support Andrew. Let's subscribe to his channel. There's the link right there on the screen. Appreciate you, Dang. And thank you for the super chat, bro. Appreciate that, man. Let's support my dude. Dang, man. Let's get it. That's good work. Good work, man. Always nice to see people, putting forth their creative juices, man, and starting the channel. The merging bullpen piece. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Jake Bird will be a hell of a lot better. I think Camilo Doval will be a hell of a lot better. Beyond that, I don't know. Same to you, Dang, man. Same to you, bro. Yeah, there are teams that can be good and just don't spend. The Yankees give $140 million. This is why I'm sick of people who say the Yankees aren't committed to winning, right? And Hal Steinbrenner is not committed to winning. He's committed to money. And we've gone over this repeat. I've had people on here. We've broken down the economics. They pay $140 million in revenue sharing every year to teams that don't spend it on players. Basically giving out $140 million of their profits. And then add the profit, add the payroll, 300 plus, and then the penalties that go along with it. Add that to the revenue sharing. That's $500 million that's gone through the door of their profits. $500 million. Okay. And you got these clowns saying that Hal's not committed to winning and blah. Come on, get real. Okay, get real. Chase Hampton's scheduled to come back, but he also needs to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. He has to be put on the 40-man. Miami could do that. But yeah. I'm curious to see what the Phillies do. They have to re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Okay, but there's a chance they could lose Ranger Suarez, JT Realmuto. Who else are going to lose? Taiwan Walker. They could lose Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos. They could use. I think they'll probably exercise the option for Harrison Bader. But beyond that, they can lose a couple of players. I mean, Schwarber's going to be free agent too, but they're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him. Yeah, and when Friedman went from the Rays to the Dodgers in 2015, when did the Dodgers get bought out by the Guggenheim Group? 2014. Okay. Look at them before that. Were they in the playoffs almost every single year? No. Okay. But since then, the Guggenheim Group manages almost $400 billion in assets. $400 billion with a B, not with an M. So they've got finances through finances through finances. That's what happens when you have venture capital and private equity and all this stuff. And that's not, they're not even the only owners of the team. They're one of the owners. And they're buying out the Lakers and all this stuff. It's a monster group. That's why they can afford to not only pay all these players, but defer all the money too, because these monster groups. $1 billion is a flash in the pan for them. It's not the same thing for the Yankees. Okay? Steinbrenner would not be able to do what he did back in the day if the Dodgers had this ownership group before. You realize that, right? I don't think people do. When you got people peddling all this crap endlessly on YouTube channels, but even today, peddling this garbage that Hal's not committed to winning. Dealing with a completely different game today. And this is the crap. Yeah, they apparently they're going to try to trade Castellanos. If they can't trade him, they'll release him. The Phillies, so we'll see. I think Boston's going to add a pitcher to complement Garrett Crochet. Don't be surprised if they trade for Joe Ryan or something like that, or Peralta or something like that. Dylan Cease in free agency. Yeah, they could flip some of those young players, Brandy, right, for like a Joe Ryan. They tried. They were close to trading for Joe Ryan at the deadline, and it fell through. Happy birthday to your mom, Dev. I could see Joe Ryan probably in front of Freddie Peralta only because he's already in the American League. It wouldn't really require an adjustment, and he would be second behind Garrett Crochet. But that's the way I bet it could be. It could be Freddie Peralta. Yeah, another healthy start. That's what I'm saying, Tim. That could be an innings eater. And if you haven't heard, and I said this in the beginning of this stream, that Max Fried, Will Warren, and Cam Schlittler, how good they were this year, yes. But they're coming off career highs in innings pitched and workloads. So that puts them at risk for injury next year. We have to be able to buffer that in a certain way, especially when Garrett Cole's going to have a delayed start to the season. Rodon, Clark Schmidt's not going to be back, and he might not even come back as a starter. We have to be ready for that. We have to be buffered. And I like Carlos LaGrange and I like Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, but they haven't pitched in the majors yet. We don't know what it's going to be like. Which is why I talk about bringing another guy in. Tatsuya Amai from Japan, you don't have to give up draft picks for him. Right? You just pay the posting fee here and hopefully get him here. Okay? No, Nestor's having, I think he's having shoulder surgery or something like that, Nestor. But I don't think Nestor's going to be back with the Yankees. I think it's shoulder surgery, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, Bixo. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, high innings pitched as well. That's why they're going to ease guys like that in. They're not going to just throw them to the wolves because they can, because they're young. They're going to be smart with a guy like Cam Schlittler too, and that's why adding an arm would be a smart idea for this Yankees team. And I hope this gives people a little bit of a deeper understanding of this as to why I'm talking about this. I pass on Alex Bregman. I would not trade or bench Ryan McMahon just to bring in Alex Bregman. That's just me. I don't think he's a fit number one. If you look at his stats, his home stats, he bats under 200 in Yankee Stadium. The reason why he was with the Red Sox is he bats almost 400 at Fenway Park. So I do think the Red Sox have a good shot at bringing him back. But don't be surprised if the Phillies bring him in for third base and trade Alec Bohm, because they can get value for Alec Bohm. They can get an arm probably for Alec Bohm to replace Ranger Suarez, Taiwan Walker, something like that. Okay? McMahon, keep in mind, he bats. His OPS is in the mid 850s against righties, but the mid 650s against lefties, which is why a right-handed bat who can hit lefties well is a good idea, right? Okamoto. That's why I keep bringing him up. You can even bring Bo Bichette and a guy like that in here to platoon with McMahon at third base, and he can still play other positions as well and still get 140 games a year in, like he does now. And again, there's going to be more opportunities for that this year because Anthony Volpe, there's no clear path for him to come back yet. We don't know when he's going to come back, so you can get a lot of reps at shortstop. And then if they don't want to bring back Jazz Chisholm, you can put Bichette at second base after this year to replace Jazz Chisholm. Okay, so Rocco Baldelli, they won't hire Miguel Cairo. All right. Baldelli, I don't think Baldelli should have been fired, man. The Twins traded half the team. I don't think it was fair to trade Baldelli. I mean, to fire Baldelli. I thought that was a bad decision. Chisholm at short, he's not a shortstop, Jazz Chisholm. But Bregman's got the stink of the cheating scandal tied to him, too. I don't think he'd be welcome here by a lot of his Yankee teammates. That's another reason why. That's a problem. Go get him, Beagle. Take that pup out for some fresh air. It's chilly out there, so bundle up. But do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, and again, if you disagree, that's fine too. But do you guys understand why I'm saying the Yankees would be wise to add a starting pitcher? I think it would be it would definitely be a good idea. And I'm not exactly sure. And for Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, another big arm for the Yankees, right? But he threw 150 innings this year. In 2025, 150 innings pitched, 176 strikeouts, a WHIP of 1.07, an ERA of 2.58. So, but that's still, extrapolate that out. He threw 150 innings pitched this year, 89 the year before. He never threw more than 100. So that's almost an 80 innings pitched increase. Okay, be careful how much you increase. So I would not go beyond 150 for Rodriguez Cruz this year. He does fit well with Boston. And guess who his manager was? Alex Cora, who's also tied into the cheating scandal with Houston Astros. He was the bench coach with the Astros when they were busted there. I think this is an opportunity to get two Japanese players. Let the Dodgers get Murakami. Let them get Murakami. I don't really give a damn. Cease is not going to be cheap. I think Gallen will cost less. I think Gallen will cost. But again, if you get a guy like Imai, he will cost less than Gallen, most likely. So there's that too. But just getting an arm here would be a good idea. For so many of those reasons. I would take either one, Jack. I would take either one if I could. If we had the opportunity to. Because they can throw innings. Reliable innings. Right? And they don't strike out. I mean, they strike out a hell of a lot more guys than they walk. It's like a 4-to-1 ratio, 5-to-1, 4-to-1, right around there. They don't walk a ton of guys. And we need a starting pitcher who's not going to walk a ton of guys. So if you get one of these guys, it's easier to package Luis Hill in a trade for, who's the guy I've been mentioning? Brendan Donovan. I would go after Brendan Donovan. The Cardinals have made it clear they're looking for pitchers. And Hill has 3 more controllable years in his contract. That's more controllable years than Donovan has, who has 2. So you can maneuver the chess pieces around this offseason in a way that can be beneficial for this team. I would not trade Ben Rice for Bryce Harper, and not in a million years. Never in a million years am I moving Ben Rice for Bryce Harper. Now, if you want to move Wells and someone else, okay, Wells and the pitcher, and get one of their pitching prospects to Philadelphia and have Philadelphia eat some money. But I was no way I'm trading Ben Rice. Ben Rice for Bryce Harper straight up is a loss for the Yankees. Real Muto, I could, Real Muto would be a nice get here. Like you can move Rice to catcher if you move Wells in a trade. Sure. Well, that's why I talk about stuff like this, Chocolate. You're getting contact guys, right? They tend to not be as expensive as these power guys, too. And like Donovan's got a couple years left in arbitration. Okamoto's not going to cost as much as Murakami. So this is an opportunity to get guys here. And we've even mentioned Josh Naylor for first base. If you move Ben Rice behind the dish and trade Austin Wells, you can get Josh Naylor, who's more of a contact bat, who's like 5 years younger than Bryce Harper, too. And he actually got speed. He's like 250 pounds, but he stole 30 bases this year. He's got speed. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you can sign JT here, even to be a backup to, I mean, he's 36, so be a backup to Ben Rice and be a good mentor to him and somebody who can still handle pitchers from a veteran and who's a top-notch veteran who's got playoff tested experience. JT Realmuto is a great fit if you can do it. But I would not move Ben Rice for Bryce Harper. I wouldn't move him for any bat. Gallen does pitch well against the Dodgers. Yeah. I mean, if you can get Bichette and Okamoto, that would be a nice add for the Yankees. And at the same time, either bring back Cody Bellinger or do what you're going to do in the outfield too. And if you bring Bellinger back and you play Spencer Jones in center field, Spencer Jones is doing all these things in center field. So it makes it easier to ease in Spencer Jones too. But, Ken also mentioned Sal Frelick, too, from the Milwaukee Brewers. Could he be an outfield option, too? Maybe. If the Brewers are going to move, if they're going to consider moving Peralta, maybe they'll move Frelick, too, and get some pieces back for him. Because I think this was the year for them to take a run. Because I don't think they're going to re-sign Peralta to a big contract. Well, as much as we say it shouldn't matter, it does matter. It does matter. Yeah. Harper was, he's kind of he's like the girl that got away, the hot girl that got away, right? Whatever. Which is why now, if they traded for him, I would need the Phillies to eat some money. But Bellinger, we've already know that he can play well here. And again, like, think about this too. If you get Kyle Tucker, who's probably going to be 10 or 15 million a year more expensive than Bellinger, you can get Bellinger and a reliever, or Bellinger, and two relievers for the price of one Kyle Tucker. So, yeah. Well, Frelick is an outfielder, Jack. Yankees need two outfielders, or as of right now. They need to replace Bellinger and Trent Grisham. And he's been solid in the majors so far. I don't know if Tucker would age badly because he's 2 years younger than Bellinger. I really don't know. This is going to hit or miss one. So, but I don't think you're going to get him for anything less than a 10-year deal. That's the other concern, right? He could get close to 200 million, but think about how much Tucker's going to get. 150 million more than that. He's going to make a lot more than Bellinger would. I mean, you can get Bellinger and Okamoto for the price of Tucker. Well, we don't know. Why are they going to trade Freddie Peralta? There's talks that they're going to shop him at the winter meetings. Why would they trade their ace? Right? If you can get stuff back, if you can get an arm or two for Frelick, they're going to need to replace Peralta. And between him and Jacob Mizorowski, who do they have after that? I can't think of anybody in the rotation. So, contract that I would offer Bellinger, probably 7 years, either 6 years 150 or 7 years 175, or it may have to go 6 years closer to 180. It's going to be between 25 and 30 million a year, I think. Well, they went on a magical run this year too, first last. So I would be shocked if it happened again without them having to add to their team. He might be closer to 30 million. Yep. And this is part of this chess puzzle. This chessboard we need to put together, the puzzle we need to put together. How are the Yankees going to do this? You see, I think if they're going to sign arms, they're going to trade for bats. If they're going to sign bats, they're going to trade for arms, or a little bit of a combination of the two. So, all hands are going to be on deck. We know. I think a full off season with Matt Blake, with what do you call it? Jake Bird and Camille Duvall will probably be a good good thing for the Yankees. Now let's see something here. Yeah, I am surprised that that Flaherty and Jeff Nelson are out. I am surprised. But I do think Grisham's gone. I do think he's gone. And he's earned himself the right to get a good contract. And this is his opportunity to cash in. Was he 20? I think he's 28. This is his opportunity to cash in. So, Dave Valley too. Who's that wink? You mean Yes Network? Former major leaguer? Yeah, I think Weaver's gone. Let's see. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other news as it pertains to this shakeout. Here we go. 20 years. And Flaherty was there for 20 years. So he was not offered a new contract. He was informed yesterday they will be returning. Yeah, analyst Jeff Nelson and Dave Valley will also not be returning this season. Flaherty's 58 years old. Honestly, I would have kept him and moved on from Michael Kay. That's just me. They're going to keep David Cone. They're going to keep Paul O'Neill. All right, that's right. Girardi is there already. I would keep Girardi. It's analyst for Yankees bar. Kay is going to be there, and his backup Ryan Rocco. We'll see. We'll see who they replace him with. That's more folks they're going to have to bring in, right? This is interesting. And the Yankees have to replace their first base coach. I talked about this yesterday too. I talked about um, Antoine Richardson and who was the first base coach this past year for the Mets, and was very instrumental in them becoming a much better base running team. And he was also, instrumental in Juan Soto stealing almost 40 bags. He's also the guy that was on base when Derek Jeter hit that walk-off single to end his career at Yankee Stadium, that final at bat. And he's the guy that scored from second base, Antoine Richardson. So, Beagle, welcome back, brother. And I'm going to wrap this up in a minute, so I got to get back to work. Yeah, relief pitchers that throw strikes. Yeah, we're like velocity guys too. We need some guys that can, with authority, throw strikes. So he's a guy that I would consider bringing in as a first. The Yankees have to replace their first base coach. So short, huh? Ketel Marte, I pass on. He's just older. I pass on Ketel. There's a lot of desire for shortstops here. What about George Lombard? We'll see. We'll see if Richardson wants me. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure if why would the A's trade Wilson? Why would the Angels trade Neto? Unless you give them Jason Dominguez, unless you give them some multiple pieces, that's the only way I could see them. And again, this is where the Yankees have the luxury of non-tendering Anthony Volpe if they want to do that. Okay, I don't think Lombard's going to be up in the majors until 2027. But moving forward, they've got Caballero now, so he can play a lot of the shortstop as well. And maybe they're quietly talking to Antoine Richardson. I don't know. He played for the Yankees. He's only 42 years old, so he could bring a different dynamic to the Yankees. And the Yankees were one of the worst base running teams. Maybe he can bring a dynamic here that really help him improve in an area where they need to improve, right? And this is where he can improve around the margins. Get better in these areas where they're not very good at. And all of a sudden, you got dudes coming, stealing second and scoring on a single, right? Or scoring from a double from first base. Like, just more alert base running as a first base coach. More alert base running. And we've gotten our asses handed to us by not being alert in some of these situations with base running. So this is an area where we can stand to get better. So if he is available, I'm hoping the Yankees are going to talk to him. Volpe did play injured, yeah. I would pass on Seager and Simeon. Josh Smith from Texas, maybe isn't he a second baseman? It's also going to be hard to trade Jazz. He was a 30-30 this year, but in his last 162 games played, he's a 40-40. That's a hard thing to trade. He's a good player, at least for this year. Smith's a utility. I would take Josh Naylor, honestly, Benji, over Pete Alonso, even Bryce Harper. Right-handed hitting catcher, you got a couple options, but obviously JT Realmuto's a free agent. Yes, he did. Wink. Richardson scored that. Willie Castle's a free. I'm not sure. He might be. Ahmed Rosario is a free agent too. He's a guy that I would consider bringing back. Let me see here. I have my list of free agents by position here. Yeah, Willie Castro's a free agent. Yes, he is, Jack. Yes, indeed. But that's my kind of position on why the Yankees would be wise to add a starting pitcher this offseason. No. And I hope it made sense. Yeah, Buckeye. There he is. The king of Texas is in the building. Neither, Benji. Neither. Yeah. Sonny Gray. Unless they're going to let him be himself. But he's got a big contract that the Cardinals are trying to unload. So the only I would even consider taking him is if we get Brendan Donovan in return too. Shout out, Ismail. Shout out to Puerto Rico. Shout outs. Wepa. All right. Well, that's the other thing too, Alan. I brought this up. I broke down the average innings pitch for our starters, and which is why it's a good idea to have long relief. Which is why I'm curious to see if they bring back Ryan Yarborough, even Paul Blackburn. Right? There's no way in the world I trade Ben Rice for Bryce Harper. That's a loss for the Yankees. There's no way Benji I would do it. The problem with the old days, we had Hall of Famers in the rotation. And it looks like there's much better hitters now that the starters have to face. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to get our starters through 6 innings. And this is why I think it's good to have long relief, one from the lefty side, one from the righty side, to buffer that, serve as a bridge between the rotation and the bullpen. That way, if a rotation guy gets pounded one day, it can only last 2 or 3 innings. You bring that long relief guy to throw 3, 4 innings, right? And then you're going into the 7th and 8th inning. That's less use of the bullpen. They're just not bringing him back, Benji. I don't know. They didn't say why. Him and Jeff Nelson are not coming back. Yeah, Rice has earned the right to be a starting first baseman. Yeah, I mean, if you get Ahmed Rosario back or Willie Castro, one of those guys would be a good idea as a bench piece who can play a good amount of games. I love Rosario's energy. I love what he brought to this team. I really, really do. Edwin Diaz, I wouldn't bring him in to be the closer. I'm not moving David Bednar out for Edwin Diaz, but that's just my opinion. For Flaherty, I don't know if he's coached. I don't know if he's going to get a manager job yet. I don't know. You never know. You never know, Wink. We have our closer, I think, David Bednar. The only guy I would move Bednar out of the closer spot before would be Andres Munoz. But that's just me. But if you get to win Diaz and he's not, and you could pay him, doesn't have to be a closer, and different story. Who's Harley, Benji? Who's Harley? I want to make sure I know what you're talking about. If Rosario got re-signed, I could see Oswaldo Cabrera being traded. I don't think there's any way they're going to trade Jose Caballero. There's no way I would either. I don't know, Jack. I talked about this earlier. That look, the Mariners, they've already announced they're going to stay with the same payroll, and they want to bring back Eugenio Suarez, Jorge Polanco, and Josh Naylor. Those guys can be much more expensive. And then you got a $7 million option for Andres Munoz, who's got I think 3 more team options. But they need bats, right, in order to get to Munoz. So there's a chance. I'm not banking on it, but there's a chance that Munoz could hit the open market. They'd be nuts to let him hit the open market, but there's a chance. But again, I wouldn't build my offseason around it. I'd still be bringing relievers no matter what. No, they're not firing Boone yet. Oh, Mike Harkey, yes. They moved on from Harkey. Well, he's being reassigned. Mike Harkey's being reassigned. He might get a different role. And their first base coach being reassigned as well. Yeah, Harkey, yeah. So that new guy that they brought in as an assistant pitching coach could be a either assistant pitching coach or a bullpen coach. We talked about Bo as well. He's an option. I profiled him this morning, where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense. Take a look at that video, Benj. I'd be curious to know what you think. There is a fit for Bo here, but there's also an area where he's not a fit. And this is why I keep saying Mike Fishman needs to be in the post-game press conferences with Aaron Boone. Answer the questions. Somebody from analytics, and he's the head of analytics, he's assistant GM. Mike Fishman. He needs to be there in these post-game press conferences. If analytics had something to do with the decisions that didn't work, they need to answer those questions, not Aaron Boone. I would try to bring back Bellinger first because he can play here. But if we can't bring him back, then obviously Kyle Tucker would be the next option. I mean, he's got a better – there are areas where he's better. There's areas where Bellinger's better. So, and Tucker's 2 years younger than Bellinger, so that's going to be factored in. But we know Bellinger can play here already. We know he's a great defender. We know he has positional versatility, too. He can play first base where Tucker cannot. So, and he can play multiple outfield positions, too, Bellinger. And he likes it here, and we like him. They got who back from the Mets, Benji? Who did they get back from the Mets? Yeah, Bichette would probably be a leadoff hitter. Yep. So would somebody like, I mean, Kyle Tucker could be a leadoff hitter. Stephen Kwan, Brendan Donovan. Like, a lot of these guys could be, but Bichette could be a leadoff hitter too. Yes, he could. He most certainly could. Let's see. But let me wrap this up, gang. There's no new news yet on the Yankees. But I will keep you updated on everything as it comes in. So appreciate you all coming on. Have a great day, everybody. Peace and love to all of you. This is the best crew out there. Hit that like button if you haven't done that yet. And I'll see you next time.